What's up, everybody? Welcome to the How to Lead podcast, conversations designed to help you develop yourself and those around you. My name's Adam, joined by Clay. So, Clay, today I want to talk a little bit about what's the purpose and maybe the future of middle management. And I love using the word middle management because it's like fingernails on a chalkboard to so many people. Yeah. I just kind of this weird side of me just loves to watch people cringe as I say it. So what comes to your mind when you hear that phrase, middle management?
Well, the movie Office Space, I immediately think of that movie, which, by the way, if I make reference to Office Space in a crowd, do people know what I'm talking about?
Nope.
Isn't that crazy?
No, they know The Office, but Office Space is starting to maybe fall off, and people aren't recognizing it as much.
I would say Office Space was a movie that did some similar things that The Office does, which is make some of the ridiculousness of the workplace. They make light of some of the ridiculousness of the workplace. But yeah, when I think middle management, I do think Michael Scott. I do think people that feel stuck in the middle of the organization, that feel like, what am I even doing here? It does have such a bad connotation, right? There's a bad, whenever you hear the phrase, it doesn't conjure up good feelings. You kind of feel worthless and purposeless and missionless in the middle of the world. I spent my whole career, 20 years, feeling like I was in the middle of the organization.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about middle management and use that phrase a lot, but it really is. We're really talking to anybody that's stuck in the middle or is in the middle of an organization with all of it. Yeah, I think there's a lot of perception with it. Obviously there's a lot of stats, and we've talked about some of them. You just go Google middle management stress. Just go Google that, and you will come up with 6 to 10 articles pretty quickly showing how stressed out this demographic is right now in organizational life. There's also things that I think we've mentioned recently on an episode where Gen Z and millennials are kind of watching the current middle management demographic and going, yeah, I'm good. I'm out. No interest in a part of that. So middle management carries with it this idea that you've got too much pressure, not enough authority, too much responsibility, no glory. You just gotta babysit. Sometimes is what people will think about. And it's pretty easy to look at all these stats and these headlines and just think that middle management's broken. And what I want to say is I think middle management's hard. It's always been hard. Life is hard. I don't mean to sound like our dad. But I'm wondering if it's not so much broken as we've forgotten what its purpose is. And that's what I want to talk about.
When I use this illustration to open up the keynote that I do on leading when you're not in charge, that I think would be relevant for this conversation, but those carts at the grocery store that are shaped like cars. Yeah. You turn when our kids were toddlers, I would try to be the fun dad. They would turn the wheel to the left, and I would turn the cart to the left. They would turn to the right. I'd turn the cart to the right, and they would get this feeling like they were driving the car. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden we'd have to go get our shopping done, and we'd be headed over to the produce, and they would see the candy aisle, and they'll start frantically turning the wheel to the left. And what does the cart do? The cart just keeps going straight. To me, that illustration typifies what it feels like to be stuck in the middle, to be in middle management, right? Yeah. That line you just said, tons of pressure, not enough authority, tons of responsibility, not enough glory. I think so many men and women are waking up today going, because what my kids did in that moment, Adam, is they looked at me and they go, you lied to me. You made me think the steering wheel works, and it doesn't. And the truth is, the steering wheel, maybe to put in a different way of that line you just said that it isn't broken, maybe we've just forgotten its purpose. The steering wheel does work, but it doesn't work the way we think it works.
That's
it
right.
Doesn't work through power, through title, through authority. It works when we understand how to really leverage the power of that steering wheel. Yeah. And so that's I think what we're going to try to do today is by giving a new, maybe not new, but maybe a reclaimed mission purpose on the future of the middle or middle management. I do think it's going to give people a new way to think about how to really get that steering wheel to do what you want it to do.
That's right. I think if you want to, let's go ahead and go here, man. It's a journey of personal transformation.
Wow.
I think that's what it is. And I think the valley of middle management, it's weird. You get promoted, so yes, you go up on an org chart, but metaphorically, you go down into a valley. And that valley is got one lesson for you to learn. And the sooner you learn that lesson, the sooner you, quote, rise above that valley and you get out of that valley. If the longer it takes you to figure out how to learn that lesson, or the more stubborn you are and you don't learn it, it doesn't matter where you work. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. That valley will find you, and it will not let you go until you have gone through this journey of transformation and learned the lesson that is out there. The role is going nowhere. Harvard Business Review put out an article in April asking some experts on where they thought the role was going to go. Back in the 90s, historically, people tried to, the consultants all tried to downsize the role away. It's grown over the last 20 years. There's more middle managers now than there were back in the 80s when the downsizing started. McKinsey put out a book a couple of years ago called Power to the Middle, rightly saying that middle managers are the glue that holds organizations together. Nothing of consequence happens without middle managers. So pop culture can try to throw as much hate its way. We can cringe at the phrase, but the bottom line is it's an incredibly valuable, I would argue maybe the most valuable part of organizations. It's the hardest job in most organizations. And to make it even more dramatic and intriguing, there's a journey of personal transformation in the middle of all of it. So it's a rite of passage. Does that sound too dramatic? Like I see it as a rite of passage is what it is.
No, and I do think you're right. I think there's a big perspective shift that's got to happen. That if you find yourself there today, if you feel like, I feel stuck in the middle. I feel like a middle manager, and I've kind of, to your point, I'm down in the valley. It was a promotion, but this is kind of sucking the life out of me. I do think there is a way you've got to see differently that really can change things. I'll never forget I was at Chick-fil-A speaking at something, and afterwards we were talking about the idea, is it possible to create momentum from the middle of the organization? And I asked that question to some of the men and women that I was standing with, and one leader, I just, said, hey, can I ask you a question? Is it possible to create momentum from the middle of the organization? And this one guy just laughed and with so much vigor and energy, he goes, well, I hope so. If not, what are we all doing here?
Yeah.
And I thought, oh yeah. And when you put it like that, yes, it's gotta be possible to be able to find energy, to even find yourself, to even find a new way of not just productivity, but a new way of purpose if you feel like you're stuck in the middle. In some ways, it is one of the best places to be in the organization because you're close enough to the bosses, the ultimate decision makers, but you're also close enough to the clients or to the customers to be able to see in a way that is going to be an actual advantage for you. So I do think this mental shift of not seeing yourself as a victim, not buying into the negative connotation of middle-level management, but really seeing yourself as an incredibly crucial leader in the organization, I think is one of the unlocks.
It really is. It really is. Yeah. So some of this, you've got to, because if you believe all the headlines, then you're going to be like that kid on the Monster.com commercial from back in the 90s. It's just like, I can't wait to work my way up to middle management. You're going to look yourself in the mirror and feel like you have no dignity. And so we've got to bring some dignity back to this role. I'm wondering, does it need to go through a little rebranding? Is it not middle management? Is it center of it all management, right? Like you are really
center
at the
of the
center
earth.
of it all.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that can happen from the center of it all. So there's things that you were hired to do for your organization, and that's part of your job, and that's the purpose of middle management. But again, personal transformation, it's about formation, not just your productivity. I think the purpose of middle management for you as that person in the center of all of it, the person who feels stuck in the middle, is trying to do something in you, not just something for you. So for you, you've got to go through the middle before you can get higher up on the corporate ladder. But it teaches you an incredibly valuable lesson. And I'll just put the lesson out here as this. It teaches you how to find a way forward when there is no map. It teaches you how to find a path when one is not visible. It opens your eyes to the reality of the world, which is valleys have unavoidable realities of tricky terrain and unpredictable weather. You're dealing with people, you're dealing with expectations, you're dealing with vulnerabilities, you're dealing with volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. All of that creates fog. Your organization is not weird if that's happening to you. Your story, you don't have to go around looking for a villain. Your story does not have a villain. It just has a valley. And that valley is trying to teach you something. And those that rise above it, that make it through it, They sit there and they just go, school messed with me. There are no answers in the back of this book. I have got to find a way forward, no matter what. I've got to figure out what our next step is. I've got to come up with possible solutions to this problem. I've got to quit waiting for somebody to rescue me and just start to take ownership of what I can take ownership of. And I'm telling you, Clay, when I quit looking for a rescuer and I just started going, I can't control everything, but there's a ton that I can control. And when I start to take focus on that, did I, quote, leave the middle management from an org chart perspective? No. But personally, my transformation was over and I left it. And I'm never looking back, right? Because I rose above it in a way and I was like, oh, that's the lesson to learn. And I think it can only be learned there in the valley. And it does something in you. It's not just something for you. And I think it's incredibly profound.
I think there's a reason why one of the most popular Psalms is Psalm 23 that says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, that there is something so powerful about that imagery, right? And I love I had never thought of the middle of the organization or middle management as a valley until today, but I think you're exactly right. I do think it's certainly the lived experience of the middle level manager is that it feels like a valley, right?
It does.
Because it feels like one of those, you're not getting as near the recognition that you deserve. You do feel a little powerless. It's so easy to grow passive when you're stuck, when you feel stuck in the middle of the organization. And so I think what I hear you saying, what I feel like how this is impacting me is that new superpower of finding a way forward when there isn't one visible. That superpower, if you can learn it in the middle of the organization, it will serve you well the rest of your life. And if you can't learn it in the middle of the organization, you won't learn it. And so
that's right.
It's one of those lessons that you have to learn.
That's
and if
right.
you don't, you won't.
I mean, I didn't learn it when I started my career in accounting, and then I turned my back on the accounting industry because I thought that was the villain. Oh, it's just this industry. And then I go over to ministry, and I think I have won the lottery. When really, no, I just went back down on the org chart and was just back being an individual contributor again. Guess what happened when I got a promotion again and I went back to middle management? The valley was right there again. You know why? Because I hadn't learned the lesson yet. And so you can change industries, you can change organizations. It is going to find you because it's not just about productivity. There's something there's something very formative that can happen as you go through and do this. It makes me think of, and we can wrap this up. So talking about like movies that nobody watches anymore, let's do one more. Let's do The Firm, the great Tom Cruise, John Grisham. So, he starts with this law firm and he finds himself in a valley of sorts where he is stuck between the mob and the FBI. And he's fearing for his life. And there's this scene where Tom Cruise goes and talks to his wife. They both feel stuck in the middle of this situation. And Cruise looks at his wife and he says, I think I might have found a way out. And then he corrects himself. And I think it's so profound. He corrects himself. He goes, well, not out, more like a way through. And it's legal. And I was like, that is such great language. Yeah. That the lesson that the Valley is kind of asking you is, are you going to quit looking for a way out? Because it's hard. It's normal for us to look for ways out. But the moment we stop looking for a way out and we start to recognize, no, there's got to be a way through here. And the way through is just staying really focused on what do I control, not giving up, not learning helplessness. That then once you learn that lesson, that makes you a pathfinder. That makes you somebody that can always find a way forward no matter what, which just makes you so invaluable to your organization and really sets your career on the right footing.
And listen, let me state the obvious here, Adam, that maybe our remarkable tribe of listeners have already thought about. You and I spent the majority of our careers in the middle of organizations, and we are no longer there. Right. And so I do think that's worth paying attention to. But I will say the lessons that, I can't speak for you. I think I almost could, but I won't speak for you. How about that? I know for me, the lessons that I learned in the middle are the lessons that are helping me most today.
That's good.
So I would just encourage you, maybe this is the question for all of our listeners, is how are you letting this season shape you into the leader that you want to become?
That's
right?
good.
What Wayne Gretzky said, we don't skate to where the puck is, we skate to where the puck is going to be. The kind of leader you need to develop into, the kind of leader the future is going to demand, is the leader that knows how to do exactly what you're talking about. The leader that knows how to find a way when there isn't one visible. Right. And so how are you doing that? How are you letting the season that you're in shape you into the leader that you want to become? That's a really broad question. That's an existential question, but I would encourage you to spend some time thinking about that question, because the answer might just make all the difference in the world in your career.
I love it. I love it. All right, Clay, as always, great to be with you, friend.
You too.
Well, that's all we got for today's episode of the How to Lead podcast. You can always reach out to us via email. We can be reached at info@howtolead.work. That's info@howtolead.work. Every episode is mixed and edited by the team over at Sound of a Rose. You can learn more about them at soundofarose.com. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you again next time.